Shana Tova. Rabbi Rami Shapiro once wrote in his blog, Beyond Religion, and I quote, "An article in the Tennessean newspaper told the story of a 15-year-old unmarried girl pregnant with triplets. The pregnancy was not going well, and the girl's life was in imminent danger. The doctors counseled abortion to save the life of the mother. The girl's parents and their pastor argued against it. The hospital chaplain was called in. The chaplain encouraged the girl and her family to place the situation in the hands of God and not let the doctors intervene. He prayed for her and asked God to do what was right. God apparently answered his prayers and aborted the lives of these 3 babies by causing the mother to miscarry. Should we conclude that while abortion at the hands of medical professionals was ungodly, abortion at the hands of God was perfectly fine? Why can't the doctor be an agent of God? Why can't abortion at the hands of medical professionals be the way God saves mothers who are threatened by the birth of their babies?" Unquote. This particular example is just one flashpoint of many on the issue of abortion that is tearing our nation apart. We now live in a post-Roe versus Wade world. But how much do we know about what Judaism has to say about when life begins? Judaism has a long history of speaking to both religion and healthcare, and Judaism has something to say about abortion as well. And let me qualify that while I will quote the language of the sources which refer to women, I recognize that a pregnant person can be on a spectrum of gender identity. You are welcome to disagree with what follows. Temple Sinai welcomes everyone's point of view, and this is a deeply personal and emotional subject. Know that the person next to you not only has an opinion, but sometimes a painful story, and we honor everyone's experience. My first goal is to teach Torah and offer a wide array of points of view from the past before arriving at Reform Judaism's conclusion. My second person is to truly see an issue from all points of view. And finally, I want to defend Judaism against the Christian right, because I believe this is fundamentally a religious issue. First, what does Judaism have to say about abortion? To begin with, there is no mention of abortion in the Torah. The closest thing to it is in Exodus, that if a pregnant woman is hurt in a violent crime and the fetus dies, the offender is fined for the offense, but he is not charged with taking a life. There is a difference in status in Jewish law between a fetus and a person. By the year 200 CE, the rabbis addressed abortion directly. In the Mishnah, they state unequivocally that if a fetus threatens the life of the mother's life always takes precedence. Only when a child is born does it have equal status with the mother. In fact, it is only when the baby crowns, that is, the head or a greater part of the child emerges, that Jewish people of ancient times considered it to have a soul and to be what is called in Hebrew a nephesh, or a life. Full life, according to the traditional Jewish sources, begins at birth, not at conception. But does this mean the fetus has no meaning at all? It depends. Moving forward in time, in a passage in the Talmud, explains that an embryo before the 40th day of gestation has no status at all and is considered to be maya, or mere fluid. In a particularly grim example, a woman who has been sentenced to death but is discovered to be pregnant is still executed if the pregnancy is before the 40th day. But the execution is suspended if it is the 41st day or later. From this, we may reason that the 41st day marks a change in status, and the rabbis then commonly use a different term called vlad, which means fetus. Jewish legal literature therefore charts the journey of gestation from being maya, fluid, to become a vlad, or fetus, upon the 41st day, and to becoming a nephesh, or a soul, at birth. In modern times, the most restrictive view on abortion was articulated by the ultra-Orthodox Rabbi Moshe Feinstein, who stood by the fact that Jewish tradition only explicitly permits termination of a pregnancy if the mother's life is in danger. He claimed that even if a fetus is not a full nefesh or a life, it is still a potential life. The argument continues that adoption in those cases is morally preferable because, as we are commanded to be fruitful and multiply, And finally, disabilities do not factor into the value of anyone's life, as we are all made in God's image. However, when taking into account the Jewish people as a whole, his opinion appears to be the minority one. Rabbi Eliezer Waldenberg, another noted ultra-Orthodox posek, disagreed with him and expanded the concept of saving the mother to include a need to save her from great pain. He included many forms of distress, such as genetic illness and mental anguish. He argued that abortion is a morally complicated decision that cannot be decided with a broad brush in a one-size-fits-all general law, but must be examined case by case. For example, what about aborting selected fertilized eggs during IVF to increase the chances of carrying some to term? What about women who have been exposed to radiation or chemotherapy? What about when certain maladies such as Tay-Sachs, which is especially prominent in the Jewish community, can only be detected in weeks 15 to 18? Rabbi Waldenberg supported abortion in many of these cases, and the unique circumstances go on and on. Therefore, even the most restrictive traditional views do not overlap with the Christian right. Rabbi Ephraim Sherman, a current Orthodox authority, recently wrote, "Judaism does not consider the fetus to be a being with a soul until it is born. If there is a threat to a woman's life, the safety of the mother takes precedence over continuing the pregnancy at any stage. And Jewish law takes psychological and emotional distress into consideration." He continues, "The Jewish community cannot justify staying on the sidelines of this national American issue. We need to take the side of allowing for safe, legal, available abortions. Jewish law does not align with the Christian right on this issue, and neither should Orthodox Jews." He also notes that as centers that offer abortion shut down, more tragic circumstances increase as people need to take off of work more and travel further to receive medical care. For these reasons, the Orthodox Union issued a statement that it does not support absolute bans against abortion. That's the view from Jewish law. It's also significant that the state of Israel, which is heavily informed by Jewish values and has a large Orthodox population, is a society that not only stresses having children, but also guarantees the right to an abortion. In Israel, abortion is relatively accessible and is subsidized by the state. We must also recognize that the Torah and Talmud are not scientific books. I don't think anyone would want to extrapolate from the biblical symbolic number of 40, based upon Noah being in the ark for 40 days and so on, into your own personal health care. From the point of view of Reform Judaism, the religious point of view is that this is a matter between the person who is pregnant and God and shouldn't involve the government or anyone else's interference. In this vein, Rabbi Mark Wachowski writes, "Abortion is both a morally serious and a morally justifiable procedure. We insist that the determination of the rightness of an abortion can only be made by the woman herself in the context of her own life and religious commitment. The government, police, courts, lawyers, and politicians should not deny women the right to choose for themselves a morally justifiable course of action." Therefore, Reform Judaism ultimately does not come at this issue from the point of view of fetal development and halakha, Jewish law, with all its patriarchal history, but from the vantage point of the pregnant person's rights and moral agency. In other words, we should not even be asking when an abortion is justifiable. That's the wrong question. We should be asking if the state has a right to force someone to remain pregnant and legislate a specific Christian understanding on the rest of us. I always try to imagine the other side of an argument. If one believes that life begins at conception, then protesting abortion is equivalent to saving a life. It's like running into a burning building to save a baby. Assuming goodwill, this is what fuels passions along with religious fervor. But there is also a larger context. Right-wing Christianity comes at this issue also with a point of view of privilege for the fetus and a lesser status for women in society that has been ingrained over centuries. We have seen the growth of Christian nationalism in this country, and it is not good for the Jews. While these crusaders elevate the Second Amendment, they diminish the separation of church and state in the 14th Amendment. That is a choice not made out of legal objectivity, but by personal religious convictions. It is ironic that conservatism usually preaches less government interference, not more. From a Jewish point of view, it is hard to see these laws as nothing less than assault from the Christian right upon Jewish beliefs and practice. I believe that many of the rulings going into effect in different states are not pro-life. They are pro-birth, but not pro-life. A society that actually protected lives would look very different from what we have now. I was talking to a colleague and she shared with me that she has a complicated Ashkenazi genetic heritage, which we have from being forced into a pale of settlement and not having genetic diversity over centuries. She has 2 beautiful, healthy children. And she also told me that she never would have gotten pregnant if she had known abortion services were available to her. And in many instances, sometimes people have to have an abortion in order to be able to have a healthy pregnancy afterwards. And what about taking care of a child in a family after the birth? What is pro-life? It's easy to predict that people will be coming to Massachusetts for healthcare services from other states. Now might be a time to donate to Planned Parenthood. Everyone's situation is different, and everyone is entitled to both religious and moral autonomy, as well as access to necessary medical services. In our particular circumstances, we Jews should insist upon our rights and safety as well. As was written in response to the Supreme Court decision, we dissent. Shana Tova.